Hello and welcome to the second of my YouTube sessions. Thank you for checking in. As I said last time, this isn't a workshop, it's just literally a drop-in session just to see what I'm doing, watch me work, and I hope you will ask questions. It was lovely last time because lots of you did ask questions, so feel free to do that. Just message me, type the question in. If you hear a voice in the background, it's my husband Rob, who was here last time, and he'll relay all the questions to me and I'll try and answer as many as I can. So I think we've got a few people from various countries with us tonight, so that's really nice. What else have I got to tell you? If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and like it if you can. That would be really nice. So let's get started. So first of all, I wanted to show you the piece that I worked on last time you joined me, and it's now finished, so I thought you might like to just see it now that it's done. So if you remember, it was the group of ladies knitting, and I worked on a few bits of that for you to watch last time. So this is it finished. It's now in full colour. Okay. Quite a lot more detail than the last time you saw it, I think. And this piece is, I've entered it for a competition stroke exhibition, so I'll find out this week whether it's made it in or not, but I hope it will, because it's a lot of work and I made it especially for that competition, so we'll see. So as you can see, this is, for those of you who didn't see it before, this is a panel which is done on a piece of wood. So it's 3D but not completely 3D. And if I turn it sideways you can see. I'll turn it that way. And I make quite a few of these panels. Sometimes they're in full colour, sometimes not. Here's one that I made which is kept in the original colour of the clay, of the papier-mâché clay. So it's just a girl sort of looking cautiously out. I made this in response to the end of lockdown, actually, with everybody feeling slightly nervous about coming out again into the world. So that was my response to that. Again, to do with lockdown, I'll just show you another piece I did. This was a piece I made during the first lockdown, and it was in response to all the health workers who were working so hard to keep us safe during lockdown. So this is a nurse looking very exhausted after a long shift. She's got her mask here and she's looking pretty shattered, really. So I made that in response to lockdown. I thought it would be a nice reminder to myself, actually, about that weird period we've all just been through. And then another piece that I'm entering for the same competition as the knitting ladies is this little piece. This is called Man with Shaved Head, and I made this because I want to just sort of show somebody who on the surface of it was rather thuggish, but actually if you look closely to him, he's got a very nice kind face. So I don't know why I do these things, they're just ideas that come to me. A lot of my pieces I like to sort of tell a story with them. So this one, again, this was a lockdown inspired piece, and it's called, I think, what's it called? After Lockdown, this is called. And this, you can see the bunting here, everyone's partying because lockdown is over, but this guy is not happy because not everybody had a great time during lockdown. Lots of people lost dear ones, lots of people lost their jobs, partners. So this one sort of tells a story. It's ambiguous, you don't know what's happened to this chap. He's got a letter here. We don't know what it says. Perhaps he's lost his job, perhaps his girlfriend's left him. We don't know what it is, but it's nice that you can sort of make up your own version of what's happened to this chap. So I'll just turn him around so you can see. Okay. So that's just to show you a few other pieces. But this evening, what I want to do, because it is just a drop-in session, just to see what I'm working on at the time, and I don't know whether some of you have seen this one on Facebook, but I've been working on this little animal. I don't usually do animals, but I just had a fancy to make this little deer, and he's almost finished, or she, I'm not sure if it's a he or a she. So I've got a few more things to do this evening to this piece, and I thought you might enjoy watching just the finishing off. But also I want to put him on some sort of base, because he is drinking from a little pool, so I thought I would try and make a little pool with, he's just like he's drinking from a puddle almost, so it's like a sort of rocky area with a little puddle, and he's going to be standing drinking. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of that this evening. The things I need to do to him to finish him off, I've done one side of him. Deer have this little sort of mottled white spots on their back, so I've done this side. I don't think you can see particularly clearly there, but I'll show you close up in a minute. So I need to do the same on this side, and I also need to put some hair in his ears. He's got hair that sort of just flicks out from inside his ears, so I'm going to do that this evening as well. If we've got time, well, I'm also going to work on the base and put some rocks and things in, just to create this little piece of scenery for him. And if we've got time this evening, I know some of you have asked if I can show you how you start a piece from scratch, so I'm going to try and do that if we've got time this evening. Okay, but as I said, feel free to ask me lots of questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, so this piece I have already coloured it. I sculpted it in the papier-mâché clay, and then I coloured it with the powders, which I showed you last time. And if you didn't see the last session I did, I'll just remind you that I colour them with makeup, eyeshadows. So I've been using this palette for this particular piece of work, so I can use the sort of browns and oranges and the reddish colours for this deer. So that's what I used for this, and then I coated it completely in glue to seal it all, so it's actually quite shiny. Now by the end of this evening I hope he'll be quite matte, because I'm going to put a matte varnish on him when I finish doing the little bits and pieces to him, because I like it to dull down a bit. I like to take the shine off it so that it looks more like a piece of terracotta. I'll keep certain bits of him still shiny, like his hoofs and his eyes, because deer have lovely sort of dewy eyes, so it's nice to keep those shiny, and probably the end of his nose. So by the end of this evening he will, I hope, be matte, and if it's dry in time you'll be able to see the difference between this slightly shiny version and the matte version. So I started to indicate on here when I was colouring it the dots, the speckled look of the back of the deer, but I want it to look more obvious. So what I'm going to do is to just take this tool, I don't know whether you can see that, it's just the head that you would use on a Dremel sander, and I just use this rather than attach it to a sander, which is a bit too rough for my liking. And I'm just going to literally take off some of the colour where the dots are. I'm sorry, can't see, can you? So you have to rub quite hard to take it back down to the colour of the clay underneath. And then you start to get a nice, it's quite subtle. I wanted it to be subtle because the deer's fur just softens it all, because obviously other colour fur goes over the top of these white dots. So it looks almost as if someone's been loose with a paintbrush with the deer and just sort of dabbed him with white paint. So I don't know how much of this you'll be able to pick up on the camera. It is very subtle, but if you were looking closely at him, you'd see it.
Put it near the camera.
Pardon?
You put it near the camera, if you want. That's it.
There, can you see that better? You see the speckles now. And I'm sort of doing it in the direction that the fur would grow, because they're not sort of round, they're more just sort of where the pigments in his fur are white. Call it fur on a deer, or is it hair? I'm not sure, never sure about that. Anyway, there, it's a little bit more obvious. And you can actually see now I'm holding it in the camera how shiny it is, and that's going to be really muted down by the end of this. So now I'm going to put some hair in his ears. So for that I'm going to use my papier-mâché clay that I've made, and we have put, I think on the last video we put a link to Johnny Good's site, because I use her recipe. She's an American lady who does lovely papier-mâché models of animals mainly, and this is her recipe, and I've always used it, and it's brilliant. I've never used anything else, and I'd never want to really, because this does everything I want it to do. So I'm going to just take little pieces of this, and what I want to do, I'm going to take my glasses off for this so I can actually see what I'm doing. I'm going to just put it in a little piece like that into his ear. Into his ear like that. And then I'm going to find a nice sharp tool. This one is nice and sharp, pointed. Let's get it wet. And I'm just going to...
Can't see.
I'm just going to flick it. I shall actually want most of this to come off. So you put a big blob in first of all. You flick it like that so that the fibres of the clay create sort of hair-like strands. Doesn't matter if pieces come off, because you actually want it quite fine. It's got little ears. Yeah, that's going a bit better now. It's more fibrous. This one and this other ear. I'm just going to have a look at my reference photograph. I'll show you. I use lots of reference photographs from the internet. Just to go onto Google and find things like a deer's face. That's not a very good shot, is it? It's upside down. Can you go to the other camera just to show that?
I'll go.
Yeah. Can you show?
Memory Bradley.
Oh yeah.
Hello,
Memory.
Has asked. Did you start with a did you start with a sketch or a printout of the deer skeleton to start?
No, I used just photographs. So I had a combination of different photographs. So let me show you now. So this was one of the photographs I used a lot because I particularly liked the position he's standing in. But then I had photos. I don't know if you can see that very well. That's a smaller photo. I had all these on my computer, so it's much easier to look at. I've just printed these out for you to see this evening. And then this is the picture I'm going to use to sort his ears out, because you can see, I don't know whether you can see, the hairs in his ears. So that's what I'm attempting to do, just to sort of flick the hair. So I'm just using that as a reference now.
And another question from Summer Holmes: do you start with a wire armature and build up on it?
No, never wire. I always use paper. I use newspaper, and I screw it up into a ball and then shape it into shape with using masking tape. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I've got to hold this up to the camera so you can see it. Yeah, so it's always paper, and occasionally I use a cocktail stick or a chopstick if it's bigger, just to give a bit of support. The legs of this piece were actually little paper sticks. I'll just show you one now if I can find one here quickly. So these are just paper sticks. So I made his legs out of that. So I try as much as possible to keep everything paper. You can use wire, obviously, some people prefer to do that. Some people use cardboard or foil or a combination of all of those. But I try and keep as much as possible to paper. Thanks for your question. Is it Memory or Melanie? Sorry, I didn't catch your name. Memory, yeah. Nice to talk to you. I've seen you on Facebook a few times, Memory. You always write nice things, so thank you for that. So, starting to get his hairy ears. It's quite fiddly, this, actually.
Can you show us inside the ear more? Get right to the camera.
I'm trying to do that there. Can you see? Here's the hairs I just put in. I have to get better at my camera technique. Now this won't take very long to dry because it's such fine little bits of the papier-mâché. So we should be able to varnish this towards the end of the session. So, oops, oh gosh, my camera stuff is terrible. And there's his little face. Okay. So, while that's just drying off a little bit.
Where'd you get those white sticks from?
Oh, I got them on Amazon, and they came, I bought this little gadget. It's a little stand so that, you know, if I'm making a head or something, hang on, let's find a head. If I make the start of a head like this and it's drying, I can just put it in there and it holds it steady while it dries. And it came with a whole packet of these paper sticks. So I'm hoping that when I've used all these up, I'll be able to buy some more of these, but without having to buy the stand as well. But if you look on Amazon and just type in paper sticks for craft or something like that, I think you'll probably find them there. But they've been really useful actually, because I tend to use cocktail sticks normally, you know, like wooden toothpicks like this for fine details. But these are actually quite nice because they're still paper. So, while the little deer is drying, I'm going to show you this that I made, which is going to be the base for him. And I made it from polystyrene because you can cut it nicely into shape. And what I wanted to do with this was to have him standing like that. So I've cut the polystyrene down to make an indentation here so that it looks as if he's standing on the edge. See, I can't show you this very well. So that he's standing on the edge of a pool. Okay, so my plan with this is to make it look a bit more rocky, as if it's this area here that he's standing on is like a sort of rocky path that's leading down to a little sort of excuse for a pool, really. It's more like a puddle, and then maybe some rocks around the outside here as well. And then of course I'll colour all that so that it'll be rock colours and maybe a bit of greenery, a bit of grass sort of stuck between the boulders. So that's what I'm going to try and do now for you. So again, I've got a reference photograph. So it's him, and here's his little pool, more like a puddle. So he's standing on quite rocky ground, which is what appealed to me. I've got some other photographs that also might come in handy for this. So usually this is all on my computer, but I've just printed them out so you can see them. So that's another one with a deer standing on the edge of a pool. And this one. Okay. And I just use bits and pieces from all these photographs. It's not, I don't use one photo and copy it slavishly. I just pick bits and pieces. So this one is just a picture of some rocks, which I liked. They're nice textures, nice colours. So I use that when I'm colouring it. It will be a combination of these sort of colours. Right. So I'll start to do this now.
Two questions for you.
Yes. Yeah.
One from Angela Marsh saying,
Hello, Angela.
how do you get everything in proportion?
Well, I look at the photos that I use, the reference photos, very closely, and that helps. But there are certain formulae you can find on the internet which tell you the ratio of head to the rest of the body. For instance, if you're doing human figure, you can take the length of the head. Are you actually showing me? Because I'm doing my...
No.
Yeah. So if you take this much, I think that the ratio of the size of your head, you can then take it down to sort of mid-chest here, and then down again to like the tummy button area, and down to mid-thigh, and down to just below the knee, and that way you can get the proportions of a human about right. But I think just looking very closely at photos and trying to see patterns rather than with the deer, for instance, I try and see the patterns rather than the fact that it's a deer. So the length of his neck, I sort of see that equals about the length of his back. And you sort of just do it by eye. Well, I do anyway. I mean, I'm sure they can do it in a much more scientific way than that, but I just use my eye. And if it looks right, then I feel it's right. And as we've said before with papier mâché, it's so easy to correct. So if you're looking at it and you think, that doesn't look right, you can just lop a bit off or add a bit on and just do it until you feel it looks right.
Pixie has asked, is dust sticking to the clay a problem like it is with polymer clay?
Dust?
Dust.
What, while you're actually using it?
Yeah, she says polymer is a dust collector before baking. It doesn't
right. No, I don't think that happens at all. And of course, we don't bake this; it just dries naturally, so you don't have to do any baking. So I haven't had that problem, but it's probably because they're not left for very long. While I'm working on it, it doesn't. There's probably a couple of weeks I might be working on it, but I'm adding things all the time, and then I just coat it all in glue and varnish, and so it doesn't really. I haven't ever noticed dust sticking to it, no. But I haven't ever used what you use. If you use polymer, I've never used that, so I don't know what the difference is really, except that you don't bake it. So that's okay for now. So going back to the deer's base now. So all I've done with this is to take a piece of polystyrene, and I think you all know what polystyrene is. I don't know whether it's called anything different in other countries, but this stuff. And I've got loads of this, and you just break it to the size you want, and I like it to be quite rough, because the clay will shape it. So I've just chosen to do this sort of shape because it matches the shape of the deer. And I just hollowed out a little bit here for the pool area and just covered it roughly in the papier-mâché clay. So now I'm going to just try and create some form to it to make it look a bit like a rocky path leading down to this little pool. So get some clay, and you can just be as rough as you like with this. I mean, I like to think that there might be some boulders here, and if you just wet your finger, put the clay, attach it to it, and rocks have got all sorts of scratches and lines in them, so just use your fingernail to make it look rock-like. So there's just a little one there, and there'd be some little knobble on the top there. I think there might be some rocks here. This is quite a nice technique, and I always think when I'm doing these sort of scenery bits that it would be fun to do with children if you were making stuff for, I don't know, if you've got someone who's interested in trains and you've got a good train set and you want to make a station or something, or hills for the train to go round. It's quite nice to use. You could do some nice effects with this. But again, it's so easy to take this all off, so if you didn't like it, you could just take it off, do something else. So I want to do some little rocks now, little sort of pebbles almost. And you can just roll things up into little balls with your fingers. Just sort of let them fall where they want to. So it's very random. Just use a paintbrush just to put a little bit of water on, which will hold them in place like that. I think now in the actual pool itself you'd have stones and small rocks under the water. I mean, there's not going to be much water in this, it's more like a puddle, as I said, than a pool. I think just a few under the water. And how I'm going to do the water, I haven't really thought too much how I'm going to do it yet, but I think you can get a nice effect by, I'll probably just do it with colour actually, and perhaps put some reflections in, just paint some reflections of the deer looking into the water. I think that the edge of the sort of step down to the pool that the deer is looking over, that wouldn't be regular either, so in fact I think it might be sort of muddy, so when I come to colour it I'll try and make it look like mud. Memory
has asked that there's no need to put glue on the foam before the clay, is there?
No, definitely not. You can.
It sticks okay.
It sticks fine. Yeah. It's a bit fiddly, and it's probably a good idea to do it with, like, you can see it's quite sticky, and when you come to stick it onto the polystyrene, it sometimes is a bit like this. Look, it's not sticking quite as well as you might want it to. So you just wet your finger, and then it sticks beautifully then. And you can imagine when this is all painted to look like rocks, it's going to look really effective, I think. I'm just going to put some on there like that. Have we got anyone here from Australia tonight, because I know you have to get up very early in the morning to catch this if you're watching it live. I know we've got someone from Switzerland. Or of where you are if you feel like it. So we just know who we've got here.
Summer is asking, does the recipe call for a specific kind of paper?
Yes, toilet paper. Yeah, it's just ordinary toilet paper, not thick quilted stuff. The cheaper the better, really. You can use recycled toilet paper. That's nice to use. But certainly don't go spending a fortune on quilted thick stuff, because it doesn't work as well. So you literally soak very, very briefly the toilet paper in water, so it starts to break down. But you don't leave it in the water too long, because it'll just disintegrate altogether. Just soak it till it just starts to break down, and then you mix it with all the other ingredients, which we'll put a link to the recipe, and it makes a lovely. Well, you can see this clay is lovely and fine. There's fibres in it which you want. Oh, sorry. There's fibres in it which you want to give it strength, but it's also lovely and soft. So you can get a lovely smooth finish on your work if you want it. Obviously you don't always want a smooth finish, but you certainly can get nice smooth finishes with it, and you can sand it.
Liz Gamble is in Australia.
Hello, Liz.
5:45 in the morning.
Oh gosh, thank you very much for being so. Such an early riser.
Summer is in the USA.
All right.
And Memory is in the desert in Phoenix.
Oh right, gosh.
And Angela is in Switzerland.
Right. Now I don't know. In some of these more humid places, I don't know how you cope if you're doing papier mâché. Do you find it affects your work? I've heard people say before that the humidity is just awful for this sort of art form, but obviously we don't have that problem here in the UK, so I've never come across that. I've heard people talking about mould as well. I've never had mould on any of my pieces. I don't know whether that's just because I'm in a nice climate, or whether it's because I'm very thorough about coating the pieces in glue to completely seal them, and then varnishing them. So I think it'd be pretty tough for anything to get through that.
Memory is saying that the toilet paper part has always been the hardest part of making Johnny's recipe. I soak the toilet paper for 30 minutes or so and squeeze out excess. It ends up making clumps.
Oh no, gosh. I put it in the water literally for a couple of seconds. I dunk it in the water, squirt and sort of just whoosh it around a bit and take it straight out, and squeeze the water out. And I'm not that thorough about getting the water out of it, actually. It doesn't seem to make any difference whether there's water still in it or whether it's bone dry. So,
and then you put it in the food chopper, don't you?
Yeah, then because you're going to rip it up, I used to sit there laboriously ripping it into tiny little pieces, but now I put it in a herb chopper, electric herb chopper, and it just, or you can put it in a food mixer, and it just chops it into nice, really fine pieces. Maybe that's where you're going wrong. I do make it very, very finely torn up before I add all the other ingredients.
And Angela says, will you paint the rocks with paint, or would you use eyeshadow powder?
I use the powder, definitely. I never use paint. I don't like the effect of paint. I'm not very good at painting, but also I think it looks a bit, well, certainly when I do the human sculptures, I think it can look a bit like a puppet. So I prefer not to paint, and I find the powders give a lovely soft colour. I think with the deer, you can see that it's quite a subtle, especially his face. Where's the camera? Which camera am I looking at?
That
one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry everybody. Hopeless in this. Yeah, so there's his face, and done with the makeup, it's lovely and subtle and soft. And when we take the shine off it, it's going to look even nicer. So I prefer that to paint any time. But you know, it's up to you. If you're good at painting, then go for it. So I'm just going to put the deer back on and just see how we're shaping up. So it's just starting to look a bit more as if he's on a rocky path. Put some underneath him now, I think. And I think what I'm going to do with this is to put some sort of greenery, very bits and pieces of greenery that are just sort of like moss or something coming up between the rocks, and bits of grass and weed, just to give a little bit of colour. Where I'm going to go next. I'll put something here, perhaps it's a bit overhanging a little bit, and just make it up as you go along. I quite like the overhanging bits because it takes off the you know, just roughens up the shape of this piece of polystyrene. And by the way, when I've finished all this, I'll obviously coat the bottom of this base, the polystyrene that's on the bottom, so it'll be completely encased in the clay. And the good thing about attaching your sculptures to polystyrene is that I could have with him, if I wanted to have him standing in water, for instance, if I'd made this the water here, I could have actually made holes in the polystyrene and pushed him in, and that would help support him. But I wanted to keep his hooves showing because I particularly like his little hooves. So I think I'm just going to stick him onto the top, and because he's so light and the base is nice and firm, I think that will be fine.
Memory has asked, will you make the moss or use preserved real moss?
Oh no, and I shall make the moss, again from paper. I'll probably use a bit of coloured powder for that, but I will also use coloured tissue paper, and you can get nice effects, grassy effects, by just tearing long thin strips very roughly of the tissue paper, and I'll show you in a minute actually when I've done this, and you can see how you can get nice grassy effects. In fact, I can just I'll just see if I can reach it. Just have to have a little bit of green, very pale green tissue paper lying on the floor.
So, go ahead.
So this is just tissue paper. I'll use a darker green than this probably for the moss, but all you do is you can just tear little like a blade of grass shape, probably just as small as that actually, and just with some water you can tuck it into your rock like that. Just shape it with a wet paintbrush to look like a blade of grass sticking out. Probably need a darker green to show you this. See if I can reach some from my stash of. Here's a darker green. I'm going to keep all the colours in this piece quite muted. So that's quite a nice, just like a little strip like that. I would usually do this when the clay is dried a little bit more, but just to show you this, I can take it off again. So you can just sort of tease it around so that it looks just like little tufts of grass. And again, you just fiddle about with it until you think it looks right. And you know, don't do all the same colour greens. I've got all sorts of tissue paper and different colours, so I should just put a combination of colours. And you could have it actually I'll take this off, and you could have it just coming up his leg a little bit actually, because it might just be around his foot like that. You see that? Not sure how much you can see from there. Try and hold it up just to show you. You see here? So there's just little bits of tissue paper. So I'm going to take that off now because I'm going to sort that out later. So
do you then seal the grass with the glue when you glue the whole base?
Yes, yes I do. So it'll just stiffen it up a bit and make it stand up a bit better. So I obviously take a lot more trouble over these rocks when I've got more time, but I just want to give you a rough idea tonight of what you can do. Okay. Quite like the idea of making a sort of what do you call it when you see seams in rock, so you can just use your fingernail to just scrape along like that, and it just gives sort of is it strata, is that what you call it? Rock strata. There, so you see it's starting to build it up. I don't know, how well can you see that, Rob? Can you see?
It's this camera here.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to do to it, but you can see that it's starting to create a little set, a little scene for him. Obviously I need to do a lot more towards the back. And then you can imagine when the colour's on, it's just going to blend into his colours. So I think now that I'm going to leave the scenery for a moment, and now that his ears are dry, I'm going to just put the varnish on so you can see the difference when it's the shine is taken off. Just put the top back on my clay so it doesn't go hard. So I'm going to use a matte varnish. I use this. I just get it in Amazon, and it's called Ultra Matte Polyurethane Ultra Matte Varnish. Okay, and you don't need very much of this. It's quite expensive, I suppose, to buy this, but it lasts for ages. Ages and ages. I mean, I've had this for a long time, and I've even done workshops so that loads of people have used it, and it's still about 3/4 of the way full. So I just pour some into a little dish, about that much. Do it in small amounts because if you don't use it all, you don't want to waste it. So I just take. So I'm going to do all of his face apart from his eyes because I want them to stay shiny. And what this varnish does is it sort of melds everything together. So when you're putting the colour on your pieces, you almost need to put too much colour on because this will slightly take it off, because it just sort of mats it down so much that some of the colour goes, and I like that because it just sort of makes everything blend.
Left a little.
Pardon?
Left a little.
Keep on.
A couple of questions while you're doing that.
Yeah.
Could you do in a future session a step-by-step making a little statue of something so we could follow you from start to finish? That's from Angela.
Yes.
And she also says, what sort of varnish do you have?
What's this varnish?
I suppose
Yeah, that
it's deco art, is it?
yeah, this is the stuff I was just showing you. This particular this particular stuff is called Deco Art Dura Clear Ultra Matte Varnish. But I think if you just look anywhere at any make really that just says it's a matte varnish. You can put a gloss varnish on if you prefer. It's just my personal taste. I like to have them matte because I quite like, especially a little animal like this, I quite like it to look almost like a terracotta when it's finished. And it does dry very quickly. So I hope that by the end of this session this evening you'll be able to see it dry.
How long do you allow the clay to dry before you coat it with glue?
Well, till it's thoroughly dry. It doesn't take long to dry at all. And if you're in a hurry and you want to get on to another stage of your piece, you can put it in the oven and dry it, or you can use a hairdryer on it. It does dry extremely quickly. This is where I've just done the hair in his ears, so I'm just going to be a bit careful. Just dab it like that so that I don't take off what I've put on.
So Angela says, so do you glue and then put varnish over?
Yes, Angela, I do. I glue first because that seals everything, and then when that's dry, I then put the varnish on.
And Liz says, when you're coming to Australia to do a workshop.
Are you inviting me, Liz? Yeah, it'd be a long way to come, wouldn't it? Yeah. Do you think anyone would come? I mean, I do workshops here in Wales, and I mean, Wales is quite a small country, and sometimes I have people who say it's too far for them to come from, I don't know, West Wales to, I live in South Wales. But I think if you live in Australia, you've probably got a completely different attitude to distance because you've got such a big country. But I've just run a workshop just last weekend actually, and it was great actually. I only take 4 at a time, nice small numbers, and it was a really lovely group. And well, all my groups have been lovely actually, and they all make great things. I mean, they all accomplished such a lot in 2 days, over 2 days, and I think every workshop I've done, everyone has made something really lovely. So I don't know if we got photographs so we can.
I'll try and find some.
Show. I
don't know that we have actually.
Well, at some point, perhaps in another of these sessions, we'll put up some photos of some of the things that my workshop people have made, and you'll see how much you can achieve as a complete beginner in just 2 days. And they all have such a nice time as well. They all usually they don't know each other when they all arrive, and by the end of it, they're all good friends. So it's very pleasant. It's a way to spend a weekend. So I'm sort of dabbing this on, and you don't have to worry about brush strokes or anything like that, because it all dries absolutely clear, so it's easy to do. So I'm not going to do his hooves because I want them to stay shiny. I was having this thought the other day, is it hoofs or hooves? Somebody tell me if you know.
Hooves, apparently.
Thank you, who told me that?
Nearly everybody.
Oh, I must be the only one who doesn't know. Thank you, everyone. Hooves, right, I shall try and remember that. Right, we got to the end. Already the bits that I did first are nearly dry, so okay. I would recommend, you can see I'm using a turntable, and I do recommend that because it's great. When you're doing sculpture, those of you who've done sculptures will know, you've got to keep turning it, you've got to keep looking all the way round. You know, think 3D all the time. So it's just useful to be able to turn it round as you're working, especially if it's wet like this and you can't actually hold it. I think I've done all of it now. Perhaps I didn't do that bit. Have we got any sculptors with us tonight? If you're a sculptor, let me know. Tell me what you do.
I think most people actually sound as if they sculpt based on the questions.
Right. Right, there we are. So he will dry, I hope. How are we doing for time?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah. Hopefully he'll be dry by the time we sign off, and you'll be able to see how nice and matte he looks. There. And he has actually gone a little bit lighter, which is quite nice. Right, so you just literally can get the varnish off with water. Just leave your brush to soak in there. So what I was also going to do this evening, I don't know whether we've got time, we've only got 10 minutes left now, but I was going to make a very basic armature to show you how I actually start off a piece. And I thought I would do a human, and this pose, again I got this from the internet. These are quite good, these pictures. You can find these sort of model poses, so you can actually see the same person in the same pose from all sides, or more sides. So I thought she's just standing quite naturally, just a simple pose, and I thought I could use this to actually show you how to make the armature. So I don't think we're going to get very far with that tonight, but I can start it if you're interested to see it, and then I could save it then if you'd like that, and the next time we have a session I can carry on with it. So I won't do anything with it in between, so you can see this. I think somebody said just now that they'd like to see a piece from start to finish, so we could do something like this if that would be of interest to you.
I think it would.
Yeah? Okay, so I'll show you now how I start that. So if I just pop my reference picture up so I can see it. All my paintbrushes. It's much easier when you've got all these pictures on your computer, because then you can just look at it. So we're going to start with newspaper. Now I'm not going to do her head until the end, because the head you have to actually leave extremely small, much smaller than you think it should be, because once you start adding clay to the head, it's going to it'll end up being too big. Oh, thank you, Rob. What have you done? Ah, thank you. Man with a brain. Right, so I don't know if you can see that. So I'm going to start. You have to look at this as various shapes, very basic shapes to start you off. So I get a piece of newspaper about this big and just screw it up in a ball, and I'm going to start with her chest up here, shoulders and chest. So I'm going to keep it small because all my pieces are quite small, and as I just said, remember that everything you do is going to get a lot bigger because you're going to start adding clay to it. So you just get some masking tape.
Go both now.
No. Just get the masking tape and just use your fingers to just shape it.
Move forward.
So I'm going to. So that's just the top of her shoulders and the top of her chest. And the shoulders here, we'll add the arms from there, but at the moment we're not thinking too much about arms. And in my reference picture, she's arching her back slightly, so I'm just going to, sorry, I'm not very good at this camera business. I'm going to just bend it like that to get more of an arched look to her chest. It's quite a fiddly job doing the armature, but it's worth taking a bit of trouble over it because it's going to be the basis for your whole piece, so you want to get it right. So now I'm going to do down to her waist. So again, I screw up some paper, and she's quite a thin girl, so she's going to taper in at the waist. I've got to be a bit like an octopus with this, sort of managing to hold it in shape while you attach it. As you can see, I've torn off lots of bits of masking tape in advance because it just...
Can you just turn it around it so just see it flat on?
Right. Yeah, if you don't have your masking tape ready, you're wrestling with this at the same time.
Do you remember where you got that picture from, Angela? Would like the link to it.
Oh gosh, I'd have to look it up. There's various sites you can go on which give you model poses, and they're sort of computer generated real people, I think. So they're nice and lifelike, and in all sorts of poses. I'll try and find it, and I'll put a link up on this site, okay? So we're just starting. So she hasn't got any boobs yet. We'll add those afterwards. But try and think 3D even at this stage. So there's a curve to her rib cage here. This is going to be her rib cage. So think of it as being oval like that. She's not a flat person. And obviously I'm just doing the front of her at the moment. When we've got the basic front, I'll turn over and sort out the back view as well. So I'm not taking much notice of these shoulder areas yet. They're just there to just indicate roughly where they are. So now the next bit is her waist and hips. So again, scrunched up paper. Again, think rounded. So this is still coming down towards her belly now. So I'm going to just give that more of a slightly rounder shape there. And again, she is arching her back, so her tummy would just come out a little bit further forward than her ribs. Don't worry too much about getting this shape absolutely symmetrical, because you're going to be doing a lot of that shaping with the clay. Which camera am I on? Right. Okay. So now we're getting to the hips. Slightly too big with the paper. Now she's standing quite straight actually, so I'm not going. It's sometimes with the sculptures I do, because I like to get a lot of movement into them. I might have the hip one hip slightly higher than the other, but with this pose, she is standing very, very straight. So I think I'm going to stick with that on this one, and we can always fiddle about with it at a later stage. So we've got down now to where her legs are going to start, and what I tend to do at this point is to use some chopsticks. So that's one chopstick, and I'm just going to position it. I mean, obviously it's much too long, but we'll chop it off when we know how long her legs are going to be. So what I try and do is to imagine where the actual bone of her leg is. Now the hip bone is sort of here. So if you imagine the hip bone going around like that, the bone of her leg will come down like this. So I'm just going to put the chopstick behind what I've done here and attach it.
Can you use the overhead camera again? I'm going to change. Listen. Flatten it.
Now she's actually got her legs open. What? Oh, yes. Oh, okay. I think we have to stop. Rob's just indicating that our hour is up. That went very quickly. So, this is the start of the armature. So, I don't know whether, would you like me to carry on making it while, you know, ready for the next session, or shall I wait till the next session and carry on from there? If you just sort of drop me a quick line now as to what the general consensus is, and then I'll go with that. But here is the start. Can you go on that camera? Here's the start now of this armature. And obviously we'll put the other chopstick in here. And I think actually I would just part that slightly so that there's more of a gap between her legs. But you can see that there's a form starting. If I turn her sideways, you can see she's starting to get a form, and I shall do the back so that obviously the hip here will be built out round towards the bum.
Most people want you to wait till next time.
Right, okay, fair enough. So I'll keep this safe and then we'll carry on where we left off at the next session. Okay, so thank you very much for watching again, and I hope you'll come back another time. I'll try and get better with my camera work, which is not very good. Sorry about that. Just to show you the little deer now. He's still a bit wet, but he's drying off, and I don't know whether you can see that he is. Pardon?
Straight ahead.
That he's actually, the light's actually making him still shiny, but he's actually a lot more matte now. And when you come back next time, I'll show you him finished and on his base with all the rocks, hopefully all painted, and you'll get to see the full effect of him. Obviously I'll be putting pictures up on Facebook, so those of you who follow me on Facebook will see him before next month. So I'll be back here the first Sunday of August.
August the 7th.
Which is the 7th, is it? Which is August the 7th at this sort of time. But check my website for details ready for next time. Okay, so thank you very much for coming, and see you all again soon, I hope. Bye.